I never imagined that something as simple as a cardboard box could permanently damage my relationship with my parents. Yet that's exactly what unfolded on my grandmother's 80th birthday. As my siblings received envelopes packed with cash and keys to brand new vehicles, my parents smiled, looked straight at me, and presented me with a beautifully wrapped box that contained absolutely nothing. They brushed it off as a harmless joke, a lesson about humility, but standing there humiliated in front of my entire extended family felt unbearable. I was ready to walk out on the spot and cut ties with them forever, until my grandmother quietly pulled me aside and handed me a small, wrinkled note that changed everything. Was I wrong for turning their cruel prank against them and taking away the one thing they valued most? Tell me if you would have done the same, because even now, I still lie awake wondering whether my revenge crossed the line. To understand why my parents behaved this way, you need to understand what life was like in our household growing up. I was always the outsider, the middle child who never quite fit the flawless image my parents, Richard and Elena, wanted everyone else to see. My older brother, Thomas, was the favorite, the one who went to law school. My younger sister, Chloe, was the spoiled princess who excelled in athletics. And then there was me. I wasn't unsuccessful by any stretch. I worked my way through college, paid off my own student debt, and built a thriving career in graphic design. But because my profession didn't provide the kind of status my parents loved bragging about at their country club, I may as well have been invisible. They routinely forgot my birthday, ignored my accomplishments, and treated me like an afterthought at family events. The one person who genuinely saw me, who made me feel appreciated and loved, was my grandmother, Clara. She was my mother's mother, yet she couldn't have been more different. Grandma Clara was compassionate, quick-witted, and independently wealthy, having inherited a vast estate from my late grandfather. As her 80th birthday drew near, my parents decided to host an extravagant celebration at an upscale restaurant. It wasn't motivated by kindness, of course. It was a carefully staged publicity move designed to showcase our family as wealthy, successful, and loving. For months before the event, my mother kept dropping hints about the impressive gifts they had planned for us children in honor of the occasion. She frequently talked about how a grandmother's legacy is passed down through her children and grandchildren, and how that evening would transform our lives. I didn't expect much for myself, but I hoped that, just once, I would be treated the same as everyone else. I spent weeks searching for the ideal present for Grandma Clara. Eventually, I found a beautifully restored vintage photo album filled with pictures from her childhood and early years of marriage, memories I knew she treasured deeply. The night of the party finally arrived, and the venue was stunning. Ice sculptures decorated the room, a live jazz band played throughout the evening, and more than 100 guests attended, including many of my parents' wealthy friends and professional associates. After dinner and the speeches, my father stepped up to the microphone. Standing at the front of the room with a proud smile, he announced that, in honor of Grandma Clara's milestone birthday, he and my mother would be presenting their children with early inheritance gifts and special contributions to help secure our futures. The audience applauded, and my pulse quickened. Thomas was called up first. My father handed him an elegant leather portfolio containing the deed to a luxury condominium in the city. The room burst into applause. Next came Chloe. My mother presented her with a small velvet box that held the keys to a brand-new Mercedes SUV waiting outside. Chloe shrieked with excitement, throwing her arms around our parents as cameras flashed around the room. Then my father called my name. I walked toward the stage with an unexpected feeling of hope. Maybe I had been wrong about them, I thought. Maybe they finally recognized me. My mother handed me a large silver box wrapped beautifully and topped with an enormous silk bow. It felt surprisingly light, but I assumed it contained a document, a check, or perhaps a key. My father instructed me to open it in front of everyone. With shaking hands, I untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. The box was empty. There was nothing inside except a single piece of tissue paper resting at the bottom. I stood motionless, staring into the hollow space inside the box. A few suppressed laughs spread through the crowd. My mother leaned toward the microphone, chuckling, and said, "We just wanted to give you a little reminder, sweetie. Real value comes from what you earn yourself, not from handouts. We knew you'd appreciate the lesson in humility." My father patted me on the back and laughed as though it were the funniest thing imaginable before telling me to return to my seat. The humiliation was overwhelming. My face felt hot, and I could sense hundreds of eyes fixed on me with a mixture of sympathy and amusement. Thomas, and she softly rested her hand on my shoulder and gave it a gentle squeeze. Then, she discreetly slipped a neatly folded note into my palm. Leaning closer, she whispered, "Don't waste your tears on them. Wait until you're in your car before reading this. Trust me." After giving me a meaningful nod, she turned and headed back toward the head table. Curious and eager to get away, I tucked the note into my pocket, grabbed my coat, and quietly made my way out into the crisp evening air. Once inside my car, I sat there with trembling hands as I pulled out the wrinkled paper. Carefully unfolding it, I saw Grandma Clara's graceful, unmistakable handwriting. It read, "My dearest, what they did tonight broke my heart, but it also helped me see things clearly. For years, your parents have pressured me to transfer my estate, my home, and my investments into their hands, assuring me they would divide everything fairly. Tonight revealed exactly what their idea of fairness truly is. They believe they've won, but in reality, they've lost everything. Meet me at my attorney's office tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bring your empty box. We're going to fill it with something they'll never be able to take away." A shiver ran through me. The following morning, I arrived at the attorney's office right on time. Grandma Clara was already seated there beside her longtime lawyer, with a pile of legal paperwork spread across the table. Her face lit up with a warm smile when I entered. She explained that her entire estate, including her historic residence, multiple properties, and investment accounts, was valued at more than $5 million. My parents had fully expected to inherit most of it, planning to use the money to support their extravagant lifestyle and cover the enormous debts they'd piled up while pretending to be wealthy. But Grandma Clara had finally reached her limit. There, in the lawyer's office, she officially revised her will and established a living trust. She completely removed my parents, Thomas and Chloe, from her estate plans. Each of them was left exactly $1, ensuring they couldn't claim they had been accidentally omitted and challenge the will. The other 99% of her multimillion-dollar fortune was placed into a trust solely in my name. And Grandma Clara wasn't finished. Rather than waiting until after her death, she decided she wanted to witness the consequences herself. She legally transferred ownership of her large historic estate home to me immediately, while retaining a life estate that allowed her to live there for as long as she chose. Then she took the officially recorded deed, folded it carefully, and placed it inside the empty silver box I had brought. Looking directly at me, she smiled and said, "Now it's time to deliver your gift." Several days later, my parents hosted their usual Sunday family dinner. No doubt they were still enjoying bragging about Thomas's condo and Chloe's new car. I arrived carrying the silver box. The moment I stepped inside, my mother smirked and said, "Well, look at that. You brought the box back. Have you finally learned your lesson about humility?" Completely unfazed, I smiled and set the box on the dining table. Then I looked at both of them and said, "Actually, I did learn something. I learned that people harvest exactly what they plant. Grandma asked me to return this to you." My father's expression darkened as he picked up the box and opened it. The color immediately drained from his face when he saw the document inside. He pulled out the deed, scanning the pages as his eyes raced through the trust terms and the immediate transfer of ownership. My mother grabbed the papers from him. Her eyes widened with pure horror as the reality sank in. The family mansion, the centerpiece of their social standing, now belonged entirely to the child they had publicly humiliated. She erupted into shouting, accusing me of being a thief, a manipulator, and a traitor. My father demanded that I transfer the property back to them at once. He threatened lawsuits and even vowed to disown me. But I simply stood there, feeling calmer than I had in years. Looking both of them straight in the eyes, I said, "You handed me an empty box to teach me a lesson. Grandma filled it to teach you one. You're welcome to try suing, but Grandma's legal team is the best in the state, and she's completely competent. And one more thing, since I own the estate now, I'll be overseeing the renovations. You're no longer welcome on the property." Thomas and Chloe sat frozen in stunned silence, finally realizing that the future they had counted on had disappeared because of their own cruel prank. I turned around, walked out of the house, and left them behind to shout into the emptiness. Over the following weeks, my parents tried every tactic they could think of. They sent relatives after me to guilt trip and pressure me. They called me selfish, cruel, and heartless. They even attempted to visit Grandma Clara personally and beg for forgiveness. She refused to see them. Instead, she completely cut them out of her life. Now they're dealing with serious financial difficulties, desperately trying to maintain their country club lifestyle without the inheritance they once assumed would rescue them. In the end, they created this entire situation themselves, all because they wanted a brief moment of entertainment at my expense. When I think back on it now, that empty box was the greatest gift my parents ever gave me. It provided far more than financial stability. It revealed exactly who they really were and gave my grandmother the chance to recognize who genuinely cared about her as a person rather than as a source of money. Most importantly, it taught me that karma has a remarkable way of completing the circle. The people who try to drain your spirit often end up with nothing left in their own hands. If you believe my parents received exactly what they deserved and you supported me throughout this entire unbelievable journey, be sure to hit the like button right now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more shocking real-life dramatic stories like this one. Share your thoughts about this entire situation in the comments below. Did I take things too far, or was it the perfect form of revenge? I'll see you in the next story.